So they pushed the SN7 to failure. It was supposed to blow up. It blowed up. Um, any idea what they might have learned from that in terms of like, did it reach a certain pressure that they were going for? Was it successful in that regard, or any idea?
So it reached 7.5 last time, which is a little, I mean, that's fine, but I think they're
They're going
aiming
for
for
eight,
higher,
right?
like overall. Yeah, like over eight, like 8.5 would
Yeah.
be pretty ideal. We didn't hear any official word on whether or not when they sealed it back up, if it held more than that. Some people are talking, there's kind of some rumors flowing that it was closer to 9. So if it did that, that's good. But this isn't even the final. They already have another test unit they're welding. Same as serial number, 5 or 7, where it's a smaller unit like that. That is supposed to have a lot more advanced welding techniques again. So they're just constantly, this is the whole thing. Like people could have, when people were like, I just doubt this thing can hold together. It's like, yeah, you might be right. If they stopped innovating and if they stopped trying, yeah, I wouldn't trust that either. But each time they do something, that's what people forget. And that's what people are not used to seeing in a company.
Yeah.
Literally every time they take one out to the pad, there's an improvement. And it will continue to be that way for years.
Well, and so what you were just talking about, like how much of this is actually going on behind the scenes for, say, ULA or Blue Origin and whatnot. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this whole stainless steel thing they've got going on, like that's a whole new thing, right? I mean, I think wasn't there an Atlas way back when that was stainless steel? But I mean, aren't they just like pioneering this whole new thing that
they're doing it differently because normally stainless steel can with the Atlas rocket and the Centaur upper stage on the current Atlas rocket still is stainless steel.
Oh, okay.
So it's really almost never been not used in a rocket. I think there's never been a period in history where stainless steel wasn't part of a tank or a fuselage. But it's normally so thin in order to make it mass fraction strength that it literally becomes a balloon tank where it has to be under pressure in order to, yeah. And so what they're kind of doing here is they're making it out of a thicker steel, but mostly doing that so it can maintain its rigidity. Over, if it was just launching and only launching to space, not trying to come back in, it would be heavier than an aluminum and than a carbon composite, counterpart with the exact same like specifications. But when you now factor in it has to come back and survive reentry, on top of they're able to use a heavier tankage like this too because the Raptor engine's so stinking efficient. Like the Raptor engine makes up for some of the slight inefficiencies that you initially gain out of, having stainless steel. Like by far, so that if they weren't using a Raptor engine, like if they're trying to scale this up with Merlin, maybe the performance gains might not be enough to really have a super, I don't know the math, but it might not be like they could build a rocket this huge and it might only take like 20 tons to orbit or something because the mass fractions are so bad and the efficiency of the engines is so low. But now because they have really efficient engines and even though they have heavier tanks, for just the ascent portion, it kind of makes up for it. But then again, factoring in the reentry portion now, that's where stainless steel actually ends up being ahead of the curve. And even if it was totally on par mass-wise as carbon composite, it's cheap, it's easily fixable, easily buildable, easily, developable. Like, look how quickly they're ripping these babies out, and they just simply could not do that at all with carbon composite.
Yeah. I guess I'm just thinking like, Blue Origin and ULA, they've got their Vulcan rocket. It's like a new system and maybe they're testing new engines and stuff, but they're still kind of using tried and true rocket building methods, and SpaceX is like starting over from scratch with this whole new idea. So yeah, they just have to like test,
Yes.
and every tiny little incremental change just, build on top of that because they're starting from scratch kind of, right?
Yep.
I mean, am I wrong to say it like that?
Yeah, I mean more so than almost any other rocket we've seen really developed, where they're starting it on where they're. I think the key is they aren't even solving it enough to be where another company would start making a prototype or making the first run. You know what I mean? Like they're doing some of the engineering and what would normally be done in like years of engineering and hardware. They're just like, let's just build it and break it.
Yeah.
And so I think some of this stuff we're seeing happen because they're so open about just like testing and playing around and seeing what works and what doesn't. And then, then mass producing from there. And by that time they'll have tons of experience and they'll have already figured out how to build the general shape of the vehicle and all all the other parts, that'll be done already by then, no problem. So
yeah.
Was it the Raptor engine that unlocked this ability for them? I mean, I imagine other rocket makers in the past have considered stainless steel and decided against it for some reason. So what was it that made it so this was even an option? Was it the steel itself that they developed? Was it the Raptor? Was it the design of the ship, the vehicle itself?
So they're still using they're still using like off-the-shelf steel. So currently it's not their in-house, special developed steel at all. It's still just like regular steel that they can just buy. It's not a special alloy. Although they're recently switched to like 304L, which seems to be even better at cryogenic temperatures. But they're just playing around with it. But the three things that is different about this vehicle that other vehicles haven't wanted to look at steel, because you always have to look at like the use case, most vehicles are just worried about just getting something into orbit. So the lighter the rocket is, the more you can take into orbit, right? So that's why aluminum off the shelf looks better than stainless steel. Carbon composite looks really good for, orbital vehicles like the Rocket Lab's Electron, purely carbon fiber. It's super lightweight. And that's the only reason that vehicle can get. So in that case, like carbon fiber is the reason that the Electron can get into orbit, despite its kind of less energy efficient engines. And you're exactly right. It's kind of the opposite. The highly energy efficient Raptor and high performance Raptor engine is what allows them to use a less efficient mass fraction wise thing. But the other part of it is just cost and like ease of development. They can easily, rapidly iterate and develop on this platform of stainless steel way faster, way easier, way less work than they could with carbon composite. Yeah.
So Mary in Discord asked if you know anything about the Boston Dynamics dog checking out the failure. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, they have.
I did hear that they got one out there, but I didn't know what it was being used for.
Yeah, they have like literally at least one. There's reports that they might have a couple. Boston Dynamic, like the little dogs, the robotic dogs, going out and checking for like people are suspecting is sniffing for gas leaks, using a gas probe. Going up and checking, safing the vehicle, things that normally a human would. Why they didn't just do like a little RC car for that instead of like a $100,000 robot or however much this is, I'm not sure.
Would you rather have an RC car or an animated dog?
Yeah, definitely the Boston Dynamics dog.
It's like, why do you need Cybertruck to be bulletproof? Like,
yeah, I was thinking about that earlier.
Do you want your truck to be bulletproof or not? Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah, so it's super cool they're using that. I think it even was near the actual not the explosion, but the failure of serial number 7. I think it was out there and got like totally cryogenically sealed for a second, or like Han Solo'd into existence for a second, and then yeah.
I was thinking the T-1000.
Ooh.
And then
yeah. But that was only temporary, right? Didn't T-1000 recover from that?
Once he melted?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they put him in the vat at the end, right?
Yeah, they pushed him into the lava, basically.
Yeah, sorry, spoiler alert, everyone.
Yeah, spoiler alert for a 30-year-old
spoiler alert
movie.
From 1984.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this clip from our show. If that's just not enough for you and you want to watch the full episode, you can go to olfpod.com/YT.
And if you want more from us, you can consider becoming a Patreon member. You'll get early access to episodes. You can join our awesome community. You can actually watch us record live and get your name in the credits by going to olfpod.com/Patreon.
So thanks everyone for watching. Check back every Friday for new clips here and new episodes on the main channel.
Thanks everybody.